All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're putting on our detective hats to investigate a massive and honestly fascinating contradiction at the very top of the automotive food chain. We're talking about a company so incredibly huge, it practically dictates global markets all on its own. We are looking at Toyota's newly concluded FY 2026 performance. And let me tell you, the data here is telling two very different, very conflicting stories. And our story really begins with just a staggeringly huge number, 11.28 million. To put that into perspective for a second, that is roughly one car sold every 3 seconds, every single day of the year. It's just wild. That's the record-breaking number of vehicles Toyota sold globally this fiscal year. It marks a 2.5% increase year over year, which firmly cements their dominance as the undisputed heavyweight champion of the auto world right now. People are buying Toyotas at an unprecedented rate. But, here comes the twist. If you're a company selling more cars than ever before in your entire history, and you're bringing in way more revenue, you'd naturally expect profits to be absolutely skyrocketing, right? It just makes sense. Well, despite moving all that metal, Toyota's operating income actually plummeted by 21.5%. So, the absolute crucial point we're investigating today is why? How does the world's biggest automaker sell so much more but earn significantly less? When we put these metrics side by side, the divergence is super stark. Sales revenues jumped by an impressive 5.5% to over 50.6 trillion yen. Yet, right alongside that, operating income took a massive hit, dropping from about 4.7 trillion yen down to 3.7 trillion yen. So you've got a 21.5% drop in operational profitability sitting directly underneath a record revenue year. It's a massive financial paradox. And just to ground our mystery in the hard data, this isn't speculation. This comes straight out of the official consolidated financial results from Toyota's FY 2026 summary. We aren't making these numbers up. This is exactly what they reported to their own shareholders. They have more cash coming in the front door, for sure, but significantly less profit actually staying in the bank. Section 1. Record sales and brand dominance, a multi-pathway success. So how exactly did Toyota hit that 11.28 million figure when the rest of the industry is facing so much volatility? Well, it really comes down to what they call their multi-pathway approach. While a lot of competitors practically bet the whole farm on a pure electric future, Toyota played the field. A massive 40% chunk of their sales mix is hybrids. That's over 4.3 million units sold globally. Meanwhile, battery electric vehicles make up just a tiny 1.7% sliver. Despite all the intense global pressure to go all electric, Toyota stuck to hybrids, and judging by the sheer volume, consumers are aggressively rewarding them for providing these stepping stone technologies. And this strategy is doing wonders for maintaining incredible consumer trust. Toyota actually retained its crown as the most valuable auto brand globally, boasting a brand value of $62.7 billion and a stellar AAA+ rating from Brand Finance. Contrast that with the rest of the Japanese automotive landscape right now. You've got Nissan, Subaru, and even Toyota's own luxury brand Lexus, all facing double-digit drops in brand value amid all these structural and market pressures. While other brands are kind of causing consumer whiplash with rapid EV mandates, Toyota's steady, reliable strategy remains an absolute fortress in the minds of everyday buyers. Section 2. The missing profits, investigating the 21.5% drop. Okay, so if sales and brand value are literally at an all-time high, where on earth did the profits go? When we zoom in on the operating income data from the source material, the sheer scale of the drop is honestly jaw-dropping. We're talking about losing over 1 trillion yen year over year, which brings them down to 3,766.2 billion yen. That means there are massive underlying forces eating away at Toyota's bottom line. This definitely isn't just a rounding error or some slight dip in efficiency. So let's identify the real culprits here. First up, there's a staggering 1.38 trillion yen hit purely from U.S. tariffs. I mean, that single external penalty alone practically explains the entire profit gap. On top of that, you have 195 billion yen just lost to unfavorable foreign exchange rate fluctuations. But to be fair, it's not all external penalties. Management is actively pouring cash internally into human resources, which essentially means they're raising wages to retain top talent. They're also funneling a ton of cash into forward-looking infrastructure and tech to eventually transform Toyota into a broader mobility company. Basically, they're spending big today to secure their baseline for tomorrow. Section 3. Navigating global headwinds, regional highs and lows. Now, depending on where you are in the world, Toyota's performance looks wildly different. Take North America, for example. It's an incredible geographical paradox. North American sales revenue shot up by 9.2%, and they sold a record 2.52 million units there. But operating income decreased by over 300 billion yen, actually dropping them into an operating loss of 192.5 billion yen for the region. The tariff impacts and structural expenses were just so heavy that selling more cars literally cost them money on the bottom line. And we're seeing similar, though slightly less extreme trends in Japan and Europe. Revenues tick up, but the profits just slide right down. And of course, we absolutely cannot ignore the dragon in the room. Over in China, Toyota actually saw sales dip by 1.4%, down to 1.76 million units. This is a direct result of fierce domestic EV rivalries and some really intense pricing wars. It just goes to show that even an absolute automotive powerhouse like Toyota, armed with this ironclad brand reputation, isn't completely immune to the explosive, cutthroat, low-cost EV market that's dominating China right now.
Section 4. The road to FY 2027. Reforming and bouncing back.
So the company clearly recognizes this rising break-even point and the bleeding profits. Toyota isn't hiding from the reality at all. Their official forecast for FY 2027 expects sales revenue to remain practically flat, ticking up slightly by just 0.6%. But here is the really tough pill to swallow. They project operating income will drop another 20.3% down to 3,000 billion yen. To fix this long term, they're launching aggressive company-wide measures. We're talking strict fixed cost reforms across all regions, major productivity boosts, and quite literally asking their employees to re-examine their ways of working. Which, is basically corporate speak for cutting the fat and focusing strictly on highly efficient, value-added output. Which brings us to the ultimate question you should take away from this explainer today. Toyota is enduring a brutal hit to its profits right now, largely due to external tariffs and heavy internal restructuring. But they are still selling more cars than anyone else on the planet, specifically because they gave consumers the hybrids they actually want to drive today. So will Toyota's hybrid-first, multi-pathway strategy ultimately win the long-term mobility war, or is the reluctance to dive fully into a pure EV approach a delayed risk that's going to cost them the future? It is a fascinating, high-stakes gamble. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive into the data. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.